On this episode, Dude asks Brett about his trip to Iceland as we drink through some Japanese whiskey. Find out what it was and what we thought on this episode of The Bourbon Hunters. But before we get started, do you want to support our podcast? Do you like bourbon gear? Visit our website at www.bourbonhunters.com to buy some of our custom bourbon gear and to help support the podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on our hunt for great bourbon. Reward yourself and sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy. Welcome to another episode of the Bourbon Hunters. I'm Duke Poole. I'm joined by
Brad Bryan.
And today we're going to take a little bit of a break from our bourbon / rye type of deals, and we're going to go with some Japanese whiskey today. So I'll let you kind of introduce it, where you found it and everything else. Brett's bringing this one on the show today.
Yeah, so I just got back from a trip. I just got back from Iceland. So that was kind of a bucket list trip for me. I'd always wanted to go there, and there's no time like the present, right? So... yeah. Booked a trip. We actually booked it back in like March, believe it or not. If you remember, we were at the Arnold
when
that was going on.
You booked that trip for my birthday present.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, so we booked that trip and just took it. Was a great time. Iceland was kind of a different world, if I'm being honest. It almost felt like I was on another planet.
Like, in what way? What do you mean?
It's just so different than everything here in the States or any other country that I've traveled in. And so Reykjavik is like the main town. It's the capital, and it's a very typical city. It feels like a very European city. But if you get on a map and you look up either Ring Road or Route 1, there's a road that traverses basically the entire island, right?
It's probably why it's called Ring Road.
Right, yeah. But it's not a perfect circle.
It doesn't say perfect circle
yeah,
road.
It's just Ring Road. And so that's what I did is traveled the entire road or the entire island, basically. I was there for 7 days and slept in a van.
Down by the river?
Down by the river, yeah. In a van, down by the river. It's funny, if you look back at that now, it's like there's like a meme about it that it was like you have to have like 6 figures now to live in a van down by the river. You can't just like... Because that's the popular thing now,
that's
right?
Good living, yeah.
Is vamping, as they call it, right?
Yeah.
So I did vamping, which was a lot of fun. Again, was in there about 7 days. Something I didn't know initially is you can't just camp anywhere, right? So you have to be in like designated camping spots, which makes it nice because the van didn't have a bathroom. So, there's bathrooms at these campsites, shelters, whatever you want to call them. Most of them have showers. Some of them are a little nicer than others. We stayed in a really nice one that was in a national park, and it was really, really nice. That was probably my favorite one. It was different in the sense of it's so remote. You could drive maybe 2 or 3 hours and not even see a gas station.
Really?
It is that remote.
Do you get a little nervous as you're driving?
Oh, yeah. I would fill up what's diesel. So everything over there is diesel, which is, I like diesel. I think it's cool. But anytime I had the opportunity, I would fill up because I'm like, fuck, I don't know when I'll see another fuel station. And fuel stations over there they're almost like restaurants too.
Why did you air quote fuel station?
Because it's not gas, it's fuel.
Yeah, but you're actually getting fuel at a station, so you don't need to air quote it.
Yeah.
It is a fuel station.
It's a fuel station. But they're like a one-stop shop too.
I don't think you understand how air quotes work.
Because, so there's more to them also though. Because like a lot of people eat dinner and have food in these. It's very common.
So they're like bussies.
Kind of, yeah. It's like that, or like a...
what do they say? I know it's Buc-ee's, but there's a TikTok thing they say bussies to make
bussies?
It sound like,
oh, yeah.
But it's actually Buc-ee's.
What the hell am I thinking of that we have here that are new?
Oh, Sheetz?
Sheetz. Excuse me. It's a lot like a Sheetz as well. And like they're known for hot dogs. And hot dogs are super popular. It's like a very common cuisine. I got to take a drink here. You can edit that out later.
Yeah.
Had a little dry tickle.
I'll leave it in.
But like, so hot dogs are a very common like cuisine in Iceland, but their hot dogs are different than ours because they're made with lamb. Almost everything over there is lamb. And so no matter where you're driving, there are lamb and sheep just fucking everywhere. Not literally, but there are lamb and sheep. Are
they like the United States? Are they still lips and assholes?
I mean, they were good. I think I don't think it's all like leftover lips and assholes meat. I think there's like decent, you know what I mean? I don't think it's all leftovers.
Yeah. Do you know what movie that's from?
No, but I've always heard that my whole life, that hot dogs are lips and assholes.
Yeah, it's The Great Outdoors, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, yeah.
They're sitting out on the patio, and he's like, those are just all lips and assholes.
I've seen that movie so many times.
Yeah.
The bald-headed bear.
Right. One of my favorite parts of that movie is that early in the movie, Dan Aykroyd's wife is talking to John Candy's wife, and they're talking about being lonely because he's at work all the time, and that she uses anything she can find to basically get off. So she says, "Oh, a good spin cycle on a washing machine, just lean right up against it." So later on in the movie, they're having a huge argument, and the wives get into it. And so John Candy's wife yells at Dan Aykroyd's wife and says, "Go find yourself a spin cycle." And John Candy parrots it, goes, "Yeah, go find yourself a spin cycle." What the hell does that mean? Like turns to his wife. What the hell does that mean? I love that scene. In the movie.
Need to rewatch that movie.
Oh,
it has been
good.
a long, long time since I've seen that.
So if you ever go watch it again, it's a kind of a mess up in the movie. When he goes and eats the old 96er.
Oh, yeah, that giant steak.
And then they all come back into the house. It just happens to be the night that they stored the trash in the house, and the raccoons found their way in the house and tore it all out all over the kitchen. So he comes back in the house, and they all go in, and then they all run out because it's basically puke or whatever.
Yeah,
he's getting ready to puke. But if you look, because it was always on a regular television, you never saw it growing up. But then now that with the widescreen format, they're not off the frame. They're all sitting there, and you can see Dan Aykroyd looking back at the group, counting 1, 2, 3, and then they all run back in. And so that's a little. It's kind of like the stormtrooper hitting his head on the door, type of thing. Not supposed to be there, but if you're not really looking for it, you don't see it.
That's funny.
But next time you watch it, pay attention to that scene. It's
I used
funny.
to love finding little things like that in movies, like little mess up things for whatever reason.
That one, I remember that was one of my first DVDs that I bought that was back in the time in like 97, 98 when...
Not Laserdisc, right? It was a DVD?
DVDs.
Okay.
And movies, so it was kind of messed up. So movies came two different ways. So there were two different versions of the DVD sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was anamorphic widescreen or letterbox widescreen. So anamorphic widescreen would be if you played it on a widescreen TV, it would play properly.
It would fill the entire screen.
But letterbox DVDs would only look proper on a regular 4x3 television. And if you put it on a widescreen, it would be a letterbox with letterbox down the sides too.
Yeah.
So it would be a 4x3 frame instead of actually being dynamically framed to fit a widescreen and a 4x3 TV.
I remember seeing those now that you say that. That's funny.
So I remember back in the day, like that was a movie that came out on anamorphic widescreen, and I loved that movie, grew up on it and everything, so I bought it. And I remember the first time I watched it, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. Because I'd always seen it on like regular television on HBO's, I never saw it in the theater. So so like I'd always seen it on TV, on a regular 4x3 TV, like on HBO and Cinemax and stuff growing up. And never saw that. The first time I watched it, I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh! So I rewound it and I would show all my friends, and I mean, I don't know if they all got a kick out of it like I did, but I love shit like that.
Oh, I do too. So. Like there's one, like the American Pie one, where like they're in the bedroom and whatever, he drinks the cup of like the jizz and whatnot. But the cup switch. It's like a red cup, then a blue cup. Yeah. And then he goes back to like a red cup.
Right.
So little dumb stuff. I think that's funny.
Yeah. Continuity mistakes.
Yes. But Iceland was great overall. It is super windy. I did not realize how windy it would be while I was there.
Really? Is that normal or just this type of year?
I think it's pretty normal to be that windy. So there were even little labels on the window stickers of the van saying like, hold on to the door at all times.
When you open it and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the lady that rented the van or whatever, the company, she had actually said that like once a season, someone basically like loses a door. Like the wind just like
rips it off.
Yeah.
Really? And so it's that that good.
It was like near hurricane wind, and I'm not exaggerating, to the point where I was like getting pretty pissed off because all of my food I had to like pretty much cook, right? I was living in a van.
Yeah.
Minus once or twice we went to a restaurant. But I had done a lot of freeze-dried meals where you boil the water and put it in and everything. And I couldn't get the fire to stay lit with propane because it was that windy.
Wow.
So I had to bring it inside the van, but then open the van door so I don't get carbon monoxide poisoning and do it that way.
That's crazy.
So that was just a little irritating, that part. I didn't get to see the Northern Lights, so that was really disappointing.
You never got to see them, huh?
No, it was super cloudy every single night.
That sucks.
To the point where you couldn't even see stars. Like, I would have been happy to sing like the Milky Way or the stars.
Yeah.
Because I've never, again, been that
There's
far
not a
north.
lot of light pollution.
There's
right?
no light pollution. I mean, there's no street lights, absolutely nothing. It was super cool, too. I loved Game of Thrones. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones or not.
I watched the first season and a half.
But a lot of it was filmed in Iceland.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of the landmarks that you're like, oh, this is where Jon Snow and, well, I forget her name right now, but like they had their courtship, right? Where they had, solidify their marriage, and saw all of those different cool things.
That's neat.
Got to see an iceberg, like a glacier. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
There was a place where you can swim between tectonic plates, which is really neat. It's like the North American and Eurasia tectonic plates.
Oh, wow.
And you can literally like snorkel between them. So
Do you see them?
yeah, you can like touch each one of them.
No, really?
They have you take a picture where you touch each one of
Really?
them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really
So they
cool.
come that high up into the water.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It just looks like rocky ledges.
Now, were there any earthquakes or anything while you were there?
So they said, I asked about that because I was kind of freaked out. Like, what the hell if? Because I was thinking like the movie Dante's Peak. I don't know if you've ever seen that,
Yeah,
where they're in like the hot spring and like whatever, and they get boiled. She said back in like 2008, I think, because she was like, and it must have happened in the middle of the night. She was saying like there was no crack, and then the next day there was like a 3-foot crack, where like the water had like separated and there was an earthquake.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they've never had anything, and it was all fine. No one ever got hurt with that.
Now, isn't that also where the plates, like there's a trench that goes through the country too? Isn't that Iceland?
Yeah, that might be what you're thinking of too. Is it's technically like a trench
Yeah.
that's filled with water where those two tectonic
Oh,
plates
is it always
are.
filled with water?
Yeah, it's always filled with water.
Oh, is that where you were?
Mm-hmm. And that's where I snorkeled
okay.
at. Yeah.
I was thinking it was so. Is it water all the way through, or are there places where it's dry? Because I thought there were places where it was dry.
There's places where it's dry, but you couldn't like touch the two plates. You can just see
They're
like
further apart. type
Yeah,
of thing.
and they have like different flags. They have like I forget the two flags, but one's like an Iceland flag, and then there's another flag for the Eurasia one versus the North American one.
of the
Tectonic,
plates.
yeah.
not the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. That's kind of neat.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought that was really like nerdy and cool.
Well, we're 12 minutes in. We haven't even sniffed.
I know.
Talked about,
So
or
let
even,
me
yeah.
share you this. So obviously, I wanted to be able. It's vacation to enjoy myself and drink. Right. I was really nervous that I wouldn't find anything in the duty free. So on the way there, I was able to pick up a bottle of Four Roses. Now, so it was just a regular single barrel, but for whatever reason, that single barrel was freaking delicious. It was awesome.
Was it an international version or anything? Did
It
look any
was
different than what we get.
It was a little different. So it was 700 milliliters, not 750
that's
milliliters.
Just that's standard.
And then the bottle looked just like the label was a teeny bit different.
Yeah.
And then I took a picture of the warehouse. I forget.
Still 100 proof and everything.
Still 100 proof.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just a different volume. And then and I drank that while we were there. And then on the way back, I hit the duty free as well. And that's where I found this Nikka whiskey from the barrel, which is a Japanese whiskey. And I just like Googled it on my phone real quick on Reddit, and it came up, and it apparently has a little bit of a cult following from what I was reading. It's a cool little bottle.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of like a medicine.
Like a medicine bottle.
Is what it reminds me of. It has like no neck
and
whatsoever.
It's got an interesting like tin screw top too.
Yeah, it does.
It kind of does look like a whiskey or like almost like even like a perfume bottle or something, like some cologne maybe.
Yeah.
But it has that kind of look to it.
And I guess it's hard to find like Japanese whiskey like at proofs higher than 50%. Typically, I think they're bottled at like 40%.
They usually are, I think, like an 80 proof or 85 proof
Yeah.
or something. What's this 40?
This is 51.4%.
51 point.
Yeah, is what this is. And this is like a from the barrel. I think you have some stuff on it. It is a blend of whiskeys.
It is. So basically what they did for this is they did a blend of Japanese single malts and Japanese grain whiskeys. No age statements are given. And then married in oak casks as opposed to being married in like a giant stainless steel vat. And then they're bottled at or near cask strength.
I did read on Reddit, which take that for what it's worth. People say that this is about a 9 to 10 year old bourbon before it's put into the barrel. And then you get that little bit of secondary aging in that barrel.
What's the bottle size on this?
This is 500 milliliters.
So 500 milliliters. So that's even a weird. That's kind of neat. So that's kind of neat. So I think this bottle is unavailable in the USA because 500 milliliter bottles are not allowed in the US. They're not allowed in retail spirits. Like there's only certain bottle sizes that are allowed in retail spirits in the United States, and 500 milliliters is not on that list. So that's interesting. So what do you think you paid for this?
I think I paid around like 50 to 55. It was in Icelandic kronos when I bought it, and you have to convert all that nonsense. So I think it was between 50 and 60. We'll say somewhere in that area. It was in the duty free, so it was tax free.
Okay.
Bought a bag of M&Ms too. So
let's nose this.
Oh, this has got a nice nose.
It does.
It's a buttery.
Almost like a toffee or a.
Toffee is a good word.
I feel like
buttery caramel.
I'm getting the grain too, which is interesting. Definitely getting some grain. Maybe I don't know if they use rice whiskey in this or not, but I feel like I'm getting something like that.
It's a little lighter in color, which
color.
I know it's Appalachia, man.
Color. I'm from Appalachia, but I learned.
Yeah.
Maybe some pear.
I can get fruit. I don't know if I can pick out pear, but I could say fruit.
Well, there's just something like a crisp apple, crisp fruit, or crisp pear type of thing to me that I'm getting. It's like a light fruit nose, not a heavy like dark fruit nose to me. So that's why I said pear. I painted the duck blue because I've never seen a blue duck.
I would love to have a drink with Adam Sandler.
Oh my god!
Like if you talk about like celebrities that you could have, you know,
that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
There was a funny thing where obviously he lives in New York City and he dresses just like a normal person.
Like he's going to the gym.
Yeah, he wears
to play basketball.
He wears like baggy gym shorts and he walked into some like very prestigious like New York restaurant, you know, and went to the hostess and she was like, I'm sorry, it's like an hour wait, and he was like, that's okay, and he left. And someone ran up and they were like, do you know who that was? And she was like, no. And they're like, that was Adam Sandler. And so she made a Twitter post and like apologizing to him and was like, oh my God. And he replied to it and was like, no worries, it's fine. He's like, I don't expect special treatment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's just a nice guy.
He seems like it. And so I read a post the other day about how when he made his deal with Netflix, and he's done this all throughout his career, but even with Netflix, he made I guess the reason, and this was before Netflix, but the reason he made the Happy Madison production company was so that he could produce his own movies. And if you produce your own movies, you get to hire who you want in the roles. He gets to then hire all of his friends and keep them employed, basically.
Because if you look at his movies, it's a lot of the same people.
Steve Buscemi's in like every one of them, and like. There's a cast of guys that are like B actors.
Yes.
That are all in his movies.
Yes.
And from what I was reading, I don't know how true this is, but from what I was reading, that was one of the benefits of him being able to create his own production company, is that he can then use his production company for all of his movies, and then because of that, hire his friends for the roles.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so keeping them employed, you know, like, hey, I'm running low on some cash, man.
Yeah.
Can you
throw me in a movie? Right. Sure thing.
You know, but I mean, that's just kind of neat if you ask me.
All right, I'm ready to take a drink. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm ready to take a drink of this.
It's been 20 minutes almost. All right, one last nose, and I'm going in. What do you think so far?
I need another drink to tell you. So there was a lot of flavors that came out of that.
There was. It was kind of a concentrated burst.
Yes.
But it's also the first thing I've had today. So there was definitely a visceral reaction there just to the alcohol. And I think with the exception of last week being in Oklahoma, all I've had to drink lately has been bourbon. I haven't had any rye, any wheat whiskey, anything like that. I've had wheat bourbons, but never wheat. Like I've just been with bourbon for the most part. So this is a little bit of a strange flavor profile that I'm not used to because it's not bourbon. But there was a lot going on there.
It's a little sweet, but it's not. Gosh, how do I say this? It doesn't have that like bourbon caramel sweet, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree completely.
I smell the grain now. Like if you go back and smell it.
Yeah, I was catching that before. That same. I'm
I
getting.
smell the grain now, and I think I smell some peat. That might be what I'm picking up on. Is a little
There
peatiness.
could be some peat, and it's very low, so I'm okay with it.
I think that's what that is peat.
It may be. There might be some peat to it. I don't know what they do for their single malts. They might have peat in their single malts in Japan. I have no idea. I will say the finish to me turns caramelly, if that makes sense. But when I first drank it, I get a little bit of oakiness. It's just kind of in the background. It's just right. It's not overbearing. It's just right. But yeah, you're right. There's a definite sweetness there that's a little bit sweeter than, say, like a bourbon.
Mm-hmm. I wish it was a little more viscous, for sure.
Yeah, it's a little thin, I would say, but it's not a bad thin. It's not like it just, because it doesn't just die. The finish actually is strong for being as thin as it is. And I feel like generally to have a finish like this in a bourbon, it needs to be a little viscous, have a better mouthfeel, because it coats and then stays with you. But this one actually, it actually is a pretty good finish for as thin as it feels on the tongue. I would agree with that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put a touch of water in this too, just see what happens, if anything happens.
Yeah.
Because this is...
I keep getting more and more peat.
The more I smell it now, I don't get it. I haven't been getting it on the palate, but I've been definitely getting it on the nose. But you're right. I'm getting peat on the nose, and it's not an unwelcome peat to me. It doesn't make me feel like an Islay Scotch whiskey, that's for sure.
Agree.
It does not come off that way. I could handle this.
You think there's some, like I'm reading this Reddit thing, sherry. I feel like there might be some sherry in there I'm picking up.
I don't.
Really?
I don't. But I don't know what it said, an oak cask. So if it's a sherry oak cask, then it's possible. I think there's just so much, and that might be what the fruitiness is coming from.
This guy even says a few drops of water helps to draw a lot more of the sweetness.
More of the sweetness? Jeez. I don't know that I can handle much more sweetness.
Yeah. Yeah, you're pretty sweet already.
Mm-hmm. Damn straight. All right, I'm gonna do just a little touch of water.
A little water.
A little touch of waters. Oh yeah, that's like perfect.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That was like the best drop of water I think I've ever done. All right, here goes with a drop of water. The nose, still the same.
Still the same.
Maybe a little mellower on the nose. Okay, there's a little more vanilla now. Did you put any water in yours?
No, I haven't.
It's like vanilla came out with that one, and it still finishes with a nice caramel. Caramel.
Yeah, same. Potato.
I don't think anyone says potato.
I know. Or tomato. I'm like, where did that even come from?
I don't know.
Because I've never known anyone to say, can you get some tomatoes for me from the store?
Hey, be careful.
That was the teeniest little, like...
I don't know. I think you watered it down. That's why I used my cap. I poured it into my cap.
I don't have a cap.
Well, I was going to offer you my cap.
Oh, well, it's too late now. I mean, I could always put a little more bourbon, or not bourbon,
If you had told me you had some tasty Triscuit crackers. Oh, same movie, too. Wow. That's 2 Billy Madison quotes in one episode. I need to watch Billy Madison. I haven't seen that in forever.
That is a good one. Does the water...
I mean,
it does make a little caramel come out.
Were you not getting caramel before? Caramel?
I was, but I feel like I was really overloaded with like peat. Like a sweetness, but a peatness. I know that sounds weird.
That's good. No, I guess the peatness kind of went away, didn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit.
For me. And so this is a bottle, like, if you're in an international airport, I wouldn't be like, oh, you have to get it. But it looks really cool. The bottle looks super cool.
If you have a display of whiskey somewhere and you need something to... This definitely breaks up the monotony of all the regular bottles.
Yeah.
This is a cool bottle. It's short, squat, and square.
Yeah.
Ooh, hey.
Hey-oh. There you go.
Little alliteration.
Short, squat, square.
Squat and square. But it is cool looking, and I think it would immediately draw someone's eye.
Oh, yeah.
And someone's going to ask you about it.
Yeah.
Just because of the look of it.
And I love the Japanese writing on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's really cool, too.
Cool. And, I mean, you got a 500 milliliter, which apparently is not available in the U.S., so that's...
So it's a cool thing to say. Yeah, no.
A little collectible, if you will. Maybe you shouldn't have opened it.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
Just go back to Iceland.
Let's go get another one.
Yeah, let's go get another one.
No, this is. I would give this a recommend or a taste it or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But never. I'm like, this isn't so good that I would go out of my way for it, like you just said.
Right.
But it's good enough that I would probably consider keeping a bottle.
This is something too where I feel like you have your annual Halloween party that if it was sitting out somewhere, people would be like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Can I try that?"
Yeah.
It kind of draws your attention.
It is. Speaking of Halloween party, what do you think of the place, man?
It looks fantastic. I love
Halloween has once again thrown up in our house.
I don't know what it is about Halloween decor, but the scared cat, I love when there's a scared cat over there, the arched back.
Right.
It's just very it reminds me of a kid and the Disney Halloween stuff I would watch.
That's what I think Halloween reminds everyone of, is being a kid again.
Yeah.
Trick-or-treating or letting yourself just be different for a day if you want to. Live out a fantasy for an evening of being a different type of person or character, or just giving yourself the chance to show your creativity with a costume or something.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day about, it was either 2020 or 2021. It was COVID. And so you and Trina were trying to be nice people, so you just set a candy bowl outside so you didn't have to interact. And someone stole. That was
2021.
Someone stole the whole fucking bowl.
We had COVID. That's why we set it outside. We did everything we could to not touch any pieces of it. We had the bag, poured it into the bowl, and then set the bowl out.
Yeah.
And then someone stole the fucking bowl. And I have it on my ring. I actually downloaded the recording of it. And the guy came up, looks right into the Ring camera, but you couldn't fucking tell.
Yeah, that's how a lot of those are, unfortunately.
Because it was nighttime, the quality went away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you could see it, and there was decent detail, and actually, for there being little to no lighting outside, because we use orange LEDs for our lights, for there being little to no lighting in that area, it actually caught a pretty good glimpse of the guy. But
should have put it on Nextdoor like everyone does.
Oh, screw that stuff. I mean,
I'm kidding.
It was one of our good bowls, and it was early on too, and they stole the whole bowl of candy. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
They broke the bowl too.
No, it was metal. They
it was metal. Okay,
I
figured it was a glass.
If they
bowl.
broke it, then they got some powers that
Or they just who knows?
It was so irritating because I caught it. My ring came on. I went and I was always going to the door, looking through the glass and all of a sudden, as soon as the ring went off, I got up, went to the door, and the bowl and everything was gone. So I ran outside real quick, saw the guy get into a car up the street a little bit, and then they drove off. I'm like, really?
Dicks.
That's your big heist?
Right. Some candy.
Stealing some candy and robbing kids of some fucking candy. Grow up.
It's like taking candy from a... Oh, wait.
That just frustrates me, man. Come on. And just stupid stuff. I was talking to someone earlier today who said they were at, what is it, Famous Footwear or Just for Feet? Which one's still in business?
Oh, I think Famous Footwear.
So they were going to Famous Footwear to get a pair of shoes for work.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were getting out of their car to walk in, someone was running out with 5 boxes in their hands. And then ran into a car that was waiting and then drove off real fast. And then when they went in, they're like, did someone just steal it? And they're like, yes.
Yeah, just
that shit's just happening all
grab
the time
and go.
now.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. That's just where we're at now because there's no consequences anymore. Even if you get caught, you get released the same day nowadays.
And then you know how they make up those lost funds? The prices go up for our stuff that we buy.
Exactly.
Now
they buffer. They used to buffer in that into the cost, but now it's happening so often. It is driving the costs up.
Yeah.
The prices up a little bit more. It's frustrating. But anyway, I'm not going to get into some political bullshit.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So I would say this is good. What would you? I mean,
yeah, I'm not upset that I bought it by any means. It wasn't I'd be like, I don't expect you to be like, oh my God, can I have another pour of that? You know what I mean? But I still think it's good. I'm happy that I bought it. I think it's going to look great in my collection.
I could drink this for an evening, I think.
Yeah, I could drink it for an evening.
I
think it's going to grow on you. After a second glass of it, it would really grow on you.
I took the bigger pour of the two glasses, and it's grown on me. I added a little bit of water to it, And the peatiness has come back now, so that didn't go away.
Especially if you're someone that likes, peatiness like that. If you like scotches and I'm not mad about it at all.
This reminds me of a tame peated scotch.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe this. And
like a scotch finished in a bourbon barrel or something, maybe even.
Well, most scotches are.
Are they most of them finished in bourbon?
Bourbon or sherry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about scotch.
That's where a lot of our bourbon barrels go.
To Scotland.
That and sherry barrels, they'll go up there and they'll. But the difference is, and that's why scotches aren't super dark usually, because most of the barrel's been used by the bourbon. So most of the sugars in the bourbon or the barrel has imparted its color already on the bourbon. Then they get it, and so like you'll have a 20-year-old scotch that's not as dark as a 6-year-old bourbon.
That's funny,
and that's why. And in addition to that, their climate doesn't make it expand and contract like it does in Kentucky. They don't have quite the seasonal changes there that we have here. So it's a very temperate, like moderate climate that just stays humid and shitty all the time. They don't get a lot of evaporation. They don't get a lot of like absorption or expansion into the wood, I should say, and absorption of the sugars from the wood like we do. Not that there's as much left to absorb and take
but
anyway.
Still, there's not as much of it happening. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is a shorter episode. If you haven't paid attention yet, I missed out on bringing a Japanese whiskey. We could have done 2.
That's okay.
But that's all right. Short and sweet's
We can always, if we get one later on, I can always bring it back and we can compare the two. It may age a little, or open up,
oxidize a little bit.
Yeah, it may change. So
well, now that it's not a neck pour, like it's actually got some good surface area.
Was there any neck pours at all? There's no neck on it.
It is a short, stubby neck.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's just a saying, man. It's just a saying. Lack of oxidation before it's been opened. But yeah, now that it's not going to get any different amount of surface area now, so you're going to get some oxidation.
Yeah.
Is your fucking phone on ringer?
Is it? It's never on ringer. Yeah, it is. It must have been an accident.
Like,
I did too. Well, that's why I kept looking at it. I have it on silent.
You're fucking pulling a Tyler on me.
So it must have been like in my pocket or something where it did it, because I hate it being on ringer.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I never have my ringer on.
Ever.
Unless I'm like working around doing something around the house and I'm expecting a call.
Or if sometimes I have to take call with work, then I will.
Well, usually if I do, what I'll do is I'll put an AirPod in.
Yeah.
And then it'll tell me when there's a call. But if I'm not doing that, then I'll flick the ringer on just for a second. But yeah. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining in. This is a little, like I said, departure from our norm. This is Japanese whiskey. Listen in next week when we're doing a Blanton's episode next week.
Ooh.
We're going to do a straight from the barrel, a gold, which I actually won in the OHLQ
lottery. I forgot about that.
And
that's 2 golds you have then, right?
I do have 2 golds now. We're not going to open the new one, but
well, yeah. Why would you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's single barrels, but I wouldn't open it right now.
Yeah, right. So I'm with you. Yeah. I'm hip to your action. And then we're going to do a regular Blanton's too. So
perfect.
Join in next week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you for joining us on yet another hunt for great bourbon. Please give us a 5-star review anywhere you are listening. But if you can't, leave some constructive criticism in the review so that we can get better at improving our show. Good reviews help us bring better guests on for your listening pleasure, not mine. But until then, sit back, grab a pour, kick up your feet, and enjoy some bourbon.